Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this, the second of the four-part series, Exploring Innovation, based upon the books by Dr. Ripi Singh. Just a couple of general announcements for those who have just joined. Your microphones, as you joined the meeting, have been muted, but at any time you may unmute your microphone, particularly as we enter the Q&A and discussion session toward the end of today's meeting. In addition, please feel free to use the Zoom chat feature to submit and send your questions to Ripi that may help stimulate some of the early discussion as part of the Q&A. Again, hello and thank you all for joining us. My name is Kevin Bully. I am the president of the research and advisory services firm NERAC, and it's our team of engineers and scientists who provide the data-driven research and guidance that help inform and assist our client companies in their new product development and innovation needs. Ripi and I were acquainted now nearly 10 years ago, introduced by a joint colleague at the University of Connecticut on the basis and belief that our shared passion for and interest in innovation would be the basis of a great relationship. And I can say with certainty that not only have we collaborated and engaged in many activities on a professional basis, but Ripi and I have also become very close friends. And it is with great pleasure that I introduce Ripi. He and I approach the innovation framework in slightly different ways. Ripi focuses on best practices, and it's those topics that are the subject of these four sessions. And I'm very much looking forward to what Ripi has to share with you all and all of us here today. Thank you. Ripi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I know at least there are 5 countries at the moment who are in the list of participants that I can see. This is the second of the 4-part series. Just a second. We met about 4 weeks ago and we talked about innovation purpose. That's the why. That's where everything ought to start, why you're doing something. Today, we will get into kind of the what piece of it. And that is, how do you actually innovate? If you have figured out your purpose, and now to meet that purpose, you have defined an objective, how do you go from objective up to creating value for the consumer? Once again, my name is Ripi Singh, and we partner with NERAC. NERAC provides information that drives innovation, and we add the subsequent pieces to realize that into a value, directly tangible value. On your left over here is the cover page of the book. The content today is pretty much a summary of what's in the book for you. And over here in the picture, as you see, there's an inventor who's showing the power of innovation value chain, having created a prototype for a medical device to his mentor. The first one that we discussed in January was the purpose. Today we'll talk about value chain. Then there'll be 2 more sessions in March and April where we'll go down the path of a framework and a mindset. So innovation value chain is at a project level. The innovation framework will be at the organization level. And then the finally innovation mindset is again at the organization level, but more from the people perspective, not just the process piece. We'll get to those in March and April. So when we talked in January, we defined this model. We said your purpose could be at any level. Okay? You could be purely focused on financial goals. Just grow revenues, just grow the top line, bottom line through either geographic scaling or acquisitions or whatever. Right? It's okay. There are a lot of businesses who are focused primarily on money, but there is more to that. Right? You may do it through technology, and that's great. But really, it begins to resonate with your heart when you start thinking purpose in terms of helping society, where there's a social reason. And then, of course, the highest level purpose could be serving the humanity, which these days, talking about sustainability of the planet, climate change, all of those activities. Either way, whatever you choose is fine. It's your choice. But be aware of all the options you have, and also make sure that if your purpose is technology or financial, you do it in a manner where it doesn't at least hurt the society or the humanity. So that was an important piece we discussed last time. We also talked about the difference between objective and purpose. And an objective is more at a project level, at its precise goal, which helps you achieve a purpose. Today's focus will be on innovating for an objective. And last time we talked about this and we had an exercise. We said, guys, take 30 seconds and write down a statement of purpose. Let's take an example today. Today, the example is somebody defined a purpose as, I want to have a safe use of mine-infested land. Apparently, there are 120 million mines around the world, both on land and in water, which causes injuries and which causes a lot of economic loss and inability to use certain regions of the world. So there are people who have this kind of a purpose. And if that's one, could you define a project which could be, can I develop a remote detonation capability so that I can safely reclaim the land or water lost to a mine? Okay, so your objective should be aligned with the purpose. Let's say you got that objective and it serves your purpose. Great. The innovation value chain, the core model that's in the book, begins with marketplace insight. Okay, and marketplace is more than just, okay, I'll get into that in a second over here. From marketplace insight, you go generate ideas that can address that insight. And sometimes you may have to go back to capture or recapture or refine your marketplace. So in our case, we talked about mining as a marketplace, right? As an opportunity. And we can generate a whole bunch of ideas. After you got ideas, not every idea works. You kind of run it through a concept qualification where you figure out which of these ideas actually qualifies, which of these ideas will solve the problem, the consumer would like to see that solution, and we can also do it in a cost-effective manner where the consumer can afford it, and we as a business or a nonprofit organization can also deliver it amicably. Once the concept is qualified, you must run it through a very simple filter. And that filter is, does it still meet your purpose? And second is, will you be able to accomplish that by ethical means? Not doing something that's unethical. You want to be able to accomplish that purpose within your self-defined morals, values, and ethics. If you pass that filter, then you can get into the actual execution of the project. Sometimes when you try to qualify the concept, it may not qualify. So you'll have to come back, regenerate the ideas. So this process of going from understanding the marketplace to generating ideas to qualifying the concept is extremely iterative. And that's where most of the magic happens when we talk about an innovation project. Every company knows how to execute projects well. There are PMI programs, people have nailed that whole topic of project management to death in terms of executing it efficiently and effectively. But where most of the companies and most of the startups and companies lose is identifying the project that is actually worth executing. So that's the upfront series of steps going from marketplace insight, generating ideas, and qualifying the concept comes in. So let's start with marketplace insight. There are 4 major players in the marketplace. The most important that you like to have is a customer, somebody who pays for your innovation. And the most undesirable one that you have is a competition who can eat away your lunch if you're not fast enough, if you're not affordable enough. So those are the 2 big players. And then we have regulatory compliance. They make sure that whatever product, service you are bringing to the market is safe for public. And lately we have seen that with the COVID, with coronavirus, how important the role of regulatory compliance is. And then the fourth player could be your strategic alliances, other companies that you partner with so that you can capture better market, you can compete, you can go through the hurdles. So those really are the four big entities in the marketplace, and you have to work with pretty much all of them. You got to be aware of their strengths, weaknesses, your strengths, weaknesses, and combine it through your concept qualification phase. Here is a question that I always ask when I'm in person. Okay, customer insight. How many of you own a drill bit, a drill or a punch machine? And most of the time, lots of hands go up. Yes, we own one. Almost all of us have a punch machine, and many of us have a drill machine. And then I ask a question: how many of you need a hole punch or need a drill machine? And once again, I would see 70, 80% of the hands go up saying, yes, they need a hole punch, they need a drill machine. Well, guys, let me tell you, the reality is you don't need a punch. You don't need a drill. Everybody who went to buy these did not need these. What they need is a hole. This is just a tool to get to the hole, to be able to do the job you want to do. And yet, in the last 25 years that I have purchased half a dozen drills with all sorts of fancy handles and LED lights and magnetic things to hold the stuff on top of it, but the drill bit is still the same for 30 years, and the hole that I get is still the same, is no better than what it was 30 years ago. All the innovation in all these things is going towards stuff that's used for marketing, but really is not performing the function that you want to do. So think about it. If you want to get real customer insight, focus on the job to be done. And the 5 steps that I think of, the 5 levels of capturing customer insight, the lowest one, the simplest one is go do data research on Google and search for other databases, third-party research. Very easy. People do it in 30 minutes, 1 hour, and they say, I got the insight. I searched. I found a YouTube video. I found Wikipedia. I got this. That's just a start. You're only getting the symptom. You can go down to conducting interviews, or even better, go observe your customer in action. See, when you put a product in front of them, what's their first reaction? What kind of an emotion do they show? What kind of a feeling comes about when they're interacting with your product? Nowadays, software companies are trying to do that. Hardware companies are trying to do that wherever possible. Well, it may not be possible with some of the other products, but if it is possible, you should do that. Find a way to immerse yourself, spend a day in the shoes of your customer. I have a manufacturing client here, and I told them, I said, can you figure out a way to live the life of their customers? So how do we do it? I said, let's design our own product. We ran a 1-year-long exercise, and these guys designed their own product, and then they built that product. And they suddenly felt, oh shit, there are 7 things that we have been doing which make the designer very, very uncomfortable, because they lived that life. So there are levels of customer insight, and the higher up you go, the better will be your insight, the better will be your innovation solution. Sony is such a strong company with video cameras, and GoPro came and took the entire market because they found out that customers were really looking for something that can film themselves in action. So they created this thing that you can mount on helmets and bikes and dogs, and then a software that you can rapidly edit and share your footage. And they completely took the market away from Sony cameras, and that they understood the customer's real need. And there's another side to it. I call it cry of the customer. And as a consumer, people were not asking for Netflix, but they were fed up of late fees that Blockbuster was charging. Okay, so the voice of the customer here was more of a cry of the customer. They saw why customer is crying. Same thing with Google. Google, when they went into search, Yahoo's problem was directories, and Google made the whole search thing very different. And that's why the search thing shifted completely from Yahoo's pages onto Google. I mean, it's also, you can call it from digitization to digitalization. But the point is, these guys understood the cry of the customer, not just the voice of the customer. In terms of competition, you could be competing on price, you could be competing on a product, an excellent product. If you're competing on price because you're doing the same thing that your competition is doing, the focus is generally internal on innovative processes, lean, time to market, cost to market, squeezing your suppliers, squeezing the process, squeezing the employees, everything. It's a kind of a stretching game, which is not necessarily intellectually stretching, but physically and financially stretching. Or you could be looking at creating an offering which is a whole lot superior. And for that, you need strong talent and knowledge. So you focus on the piece, which is your true intellectual capability to create products which are first in the market, second in the market, like that. One way to also do competitive benchmarking is to figure out what are the parameters you are competing on. Pick up top 5, 6 parameters that you compete on. Is it the price? Is it the customer experience? Is it the side effects, user interface, whatever? And then compare yourself relative to your competition or relative to some industry standard and see where each of the KPIs compare with others. And then sort of define, okay, this is what the 3 competitions are. Maybe my new target should be a combination like this, so that I actually focus on creating a product which excels on multiple fronts simultaneously to be able to capture the market share. So many of us even tend to miss this kind of a map. We focus on 1 or 2 parameters. And actually, when you accomplish that, the market shifts, something else happens. So you really need a portfolio of KPIs to accomplish a truly competitive product. For all this, you need a lot of information. You need information about all the 4 elements of the marketplace that we talked about. But do you know that Google and Bing and Wikipedia and all these easily accessible data, they only access 4% of the total data worldwide? And 90% of it is what is called deep web. It's all hidden. It's not easy. And then there's a dark web where we don't want to go, but there are pieces over there too. There may be stuff against you that's sitting over there that you may not know. That's okay. Maybe you can live with it. Maybe you can't live with it. But deep web is something you need to figure out a way to get there, because that's where your competitive intelligence will come from. Competitive information can come from what's on the surface, what they're advertising, but intelligence is around stuff that's not in the public domain. That's about things that your customer will do in the next 6 months or 9 months or a year. Most of that is in the deep web. And that's an important piece that you want to figure out a way to get there. That's where we actually work with NERAC. NERAC allows us to go deep and get the data that's not easily accessible. Then to validate your strategy, you can play a game, just like a chess. We call it a war game, where you make 2 teams and you say, okay, you got 1 hour to build a strategy. Each team builds a strategy and play as if you are 2 competitions, right? Put your strategy, let the other guy counter, then team B puts a strategy, then team A counters. You run that over 3 or 4 sessions over a week, you would actually come up with a really robust strategy, because now you have thought through, you've actually simulated what can happen in marketplace once you go to market with your idea. So these are all the ways you capture and you understand what product you want to develop. These days you've also heard these terms, misinformation and disinformation and all that stuff. A lot of that even happens in real life when you're doing research. So let me ask you a question. Which animal do you see in this picture? I'll give you 10 seconds. If you think of something, put it in the chat box. What animal do you see here? Fantastic. So we see duck, we see rabbit, we see a bird, we see both. Now that the answers are coming up there, I think we can all see this could be a duck, it could be a rabbit. This happens when you're searching information about your customer, when you're searching information about your competition. We interpret things differently. And then you must go back and validate what it is, right? Which means if I can turn it around and see, I may get an answer. So that's why this whole thing about marketplace insight is not that trivial as we tend to believe. What do you see in this picture? What animal do you see in this picture? Go ahead, put it in the chat box. Fantastic. So you see, we're sort of getting all of these answers over here: fly, bat, butterfly, fly. The right answer is the first one that John gave. It's a cowboy. So you see, what happened here is we asked a question which threw us in the wrong direction. I asked a question, which animal do you see? So you actually were looking for an animal, and you find bat, and you find rat, and you find butterfly. But it really is a cowboy with a hat. Even that happens when you try to get information from the marketplace. You are searching for something, and you will actually find what you're searching for. And sometimes it really is a very different artifact. Anyway, this is just an example to show how non-trivial it is to capture marketplace insight. So that's why we say don't do it yourself, because we are preconditioned to looking for things that we want to see. We have our biases, so to say. So we always discover what we are looking for. When a third person comes and helps you capture marketplace insight, it's just absolutely phenomenally different. And we have had this experience for many years. All right, let's go to ideation, the second step over here. There are multiple techniques. I will touch upon two or three, but then you have to screen those ideas and you have to be able to present those ideas. Ideation is different than brainstorming. Okay, in brainstorming, you tend to fall into groupthink. It becomes democratic. Judgment is withheld. But in ideation, you have a defined objective for a clear purpose, and you use triggers to generate ideas. And then you are allowed to evaluate during the ideation session and build it together as a team. You are allowed to criticize as long as you can provide data or provide a solution to your criticism, not just a judgment, but an ability to improve. That's where ideation differs from traditional brainstorming. One of the techniques that we use, and it's been very powerful, is called I wish. Get a diverse group of people in a room and just go around the room with everyone saying, I wish I could go to moon. I wish I had a material that will tell me before it fails. I wish I had a milk that will never ever go bad. Right? And you are allowed to generate a list of impossible ideas and even break the laws of physics. And then when you go through that, what happens is you'll get some outrageous wishes and some very realistic ones, which may be a stretch, but they're doable. But they bring out the kind of data, the kind of quality of ideation you were looking for. And many times, I wish in the board of directors room, when you go through I wish, you are actually able to develop a vision for the company. And it's not unrealistic to sometimes think, I wish I could do this. And then you say, how? And then you find out that it might even be possible. Pursue that. The second most powerful ideation technique is, I call it a visual trigger. And I do it all the time. I have a keyword. I instantly go to Google Images and throw the keyword in. And we were looking for bridge inspection. And I put that, and I get all sorts of things that people are doing. And now each one of this picture triggers a possibility. Why is this guy hanging from under the bridge where I could have used a drone like that for that application, right? So you can instantly put things together and see it differently. Triggers could come from YouTube, Wikipedia, posters, even anecdotes, and even sometimes cartoons. Dilbert cartoons can also trigger certain ideas. Sci-fi movies. Star Trek is another one of my favorites. If you sit and watch the original Star Trek today, you would realize that a lot of technology that we are using today was shown 20 years ago, 25 years ago in those Star Trek episodes. It's amazing how many of them existed, including iPad and flip phones and all of the other stuff. So there are lots of triggers you can generate, and you can use these tools while ideating. In ideation session, if one guy comes up with a keyword, throw that keyword into Google Images, let the pictures come up, and you can continue your ideation session. We also use a technique called dolphin tank. Everybody's familiar with Shark Tank. Dolphin tank is just like Shark Tank, but we are not here to bite you. We're here to love you, which means once you have an idea, we'll just help you build it. So that's pretty powerful. Once you've got the ideas, a thing that you don't want to do is vote on it. A very popular technique with all of my clients has been, okay, we got all these ideas. Let's create a matrix. Is it useful? Blah, blah, blah. 3 columns. Everybody vote on a scale of 1 to 5, and let's see what's the highest number. You know what that does? That eliminates the best of the ideas, because the best of the ideas are understood by very few people. You will not get the votes. Okay. When you start voting on an idea, you end up with a very, very mediocre. Although you got the buy-in of the team, but you got the buy-in of the team on an idea that may not be worth pursuing anymore. And that average ideation session is something that your competition has also done, and it does not provide you with the advantage you are looking for. So figure out a way not to vote on it, but find a way where there's a spark, where there's a potential, merge them into themes and evaluate those themes for a purpose. And you will find out that the best of the ideas are probably supported by one person, desperately the originator of the idea, but let that person bring and show the data for you. How do you articulate that idea? This company strategizer provided the value proposition canvas on how do you present an idea. And this is a very simple graphic. It says start with the jobs you have to do for the customer, or what customer is doing, and figure out what's their pain, and come about how will you relieve that pain with your product solution, and can you create additional gains that the customer might be willing to pay. So it's all about the jobs they're doing. You're drilling a hole. What's the pain? What's the gain? Let's go back to the very first chart we had. Okay, we want to create a land free of mines. So the jobs that need to be done over there are, you have to scan for the mines, and then you have to diffuse the mines. And currently they are using handheld machines. Some machines are heavy. They take like trucks out there, and they're also using robots. That's what is being done today. And to diffuse it, there are times when you recover and disarm individual mine, and sometimes you just in situ blow it up right there because you could afford to do it. It's the easiest way to finish it off. The pains that customers are facing right now is when they are on the ground, there are lots of accidents and injuries. The terrain may not be as smooth for the heavy machines and trucks to go. You get a lot of false positives. This was a big problem. You get 500 false indications with any device you use before you find one mine, which is such an enormous wasted effort. And the deminers become complacent because for 2 days, 3 days, they've been detecting there is a signal, they dig the piece of land, there is no mine over there, there was a soda can or a coin or some other piece of metal, and then they become complacent, and then when there's a real mine, it blows up on their hands and faces. So that was a serious, serious issue. Then you don't know how to market that this area is safe. And also upfront, actually defining the target zone. So this is a really serious problem. If you think about it and you ask people who are in the business, they say the cost of putting a mine is $1 per mine. The cost of demining is $300 a mine. So and that is what makes this problem a $1 billion problem, because there are 120 million mines and each one takes $300 to clean up. So let's say your solution is around an eddy current sensor, an aerial delivery system using a drone, which can scan it remotely, which can mark it remotely. And you can now make it safe for the people who are doing it through automation. You do the marking through GPS in your digital model. So you know digitally which is safe area to go, which has already been cleared off, at least somewhere, you can actually hook it up with Google Maps and create it over there. It provides cost and speed that customer was not asking for. Think about it, cost and speed is not a pain for them. Their pain was accidents. But with this technique, we are able to create cost and speed, and that gain is something that customer might be willing to pay. So you create a value proposition canvas, and then you develop a one-liner saying, this is how I articulate my idea. I want to develop a new wide area scan diffuse mark capability that can be rapidly deployed using drones. Okay. So you came from your purpose to objective, went through marketplace insight, eventually got to a value proposition canvas and defined a one-liner value proposition. Does it make business sense to do it? Let's look at that. Let's qualify whether this concept is worthy of pursuit or not. Okay. Can we create a simple one-page business model? And then we can check it for purpose and ethics. So one-page business model, this is a modified version of what originally came, again, out of Strategizer, the book called Business Model Generation. We have taken it a step further for product service type of application. So we said we will create an eddy current sensor, an aerial delivery, drone-based stuff, and we'll create a product, we'll sell the product, and we'll train our customers to go use that particular product for demining. And our market is at the moment military. You know, it's US Army, they need to do demining in Afghanistan. So that's our market. 120 million mines, which means I can probably sell 12,000 of these units total out there, if each unit is capable of removing so many mines. The existing option, like I mentioned, customer is currently using a traditional metal detector and a hard ball detonation that's like a hammer, you know, it's behind a chain, you smack it on the ground and it blows up. And it costs them about $300 to remove each mine. Okay. Our product is about 10 times safer, is about 5 times faster, and we will sell it to the military through direct sales. When government comes out with an RFP, we'll pitch, and we hope that we can actually capture maybe 10 to 15% of the market share, which means we have a market for about 1,500 of these units. If we design and develop, we can sell 1,500. That's the estimate. We need to develop the system, demonstrate, certify, and then we sell it. It's going to cost us $40 million to develop it and go through that entire process. That's what the engineering team has come up with to create based on the specifications. So one time I need $40 million in initial investment, and then each unit is going to cost me $10,000. Currently, what government is doing based on that and what we are offering, we estimate that they're probably willing to pay $15,000 per unit. That takes me to a situation where I will break even if I sell 8,000 units. But based on the market assessment, I can only sell 1,500 units, which means this will not make business sense for me to do. I will not recover my investment. This concept does not qualify. Great idea, does not make business sense to do it. So what do? We either abort that or we pivot. What do we pivot? The way we can use this particular tool, you can either go right and up and come up with a different value proposition. You can go left, come up, and see where you can see. So effectively, you have to start thinking about which of these boxes to change. These boxes are arranged in a particular fashion that each box is connected with its neighboring box. And if you change one, you must ask what is its effect on its neighbor. So we went through multiple iterations and we said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to convert this into a product lease service model, and even later on see if we can monetize the data. I'm going to expand the market to also include humanitarian organizations. I will also change the sales channel from direct sales to maybe a contractor-owned, contractor-operated, which means I will make these machines and I will also operate these machines to take demining as a service within our own organization. And if I'm able to do this, I'm able to take each mine at about $250. The initial investment is still the same because the product is same. I become profitable after about 1 million minds. And if I can capture 15 to 20%, the total market is about 15 million minds. Now it makes business sense to do. Because I can capture up to 15 million minds market share, and I become profitable beyond 1 million. So the product alone was not profitable, but we added the service and data monetization along with it and changed also the market segment. Now it makes business sense. Go for it. So this concept would qualify. So that's a kind of a tool that think about a dozen of my customers have used in the last 2 years, and they really love it. We've actually also converted it into an online mechanism of doing it. And this tool is fully explained in the book. So if you want to dig deeper, there are places where this information is available. Come down to, does it meet your purpose? Well, of course, I am creating a product and a service, I have optimized it, and it's pushing towards safety. It serves a social purpose, and I'm making it very user-friendly and all that stuff. Good. And financially, yeah, I'll probably make money as well. Is it hurting a higher level purpose? What about humanity? Is it ecologically friendly? I don't know yet. Because the way I detonate, I don't know yet. So I must address that question as well. So your concept now made business sense, but in terms of purpose, yes, it serves your purpose, but it's actually hurting something at higher level. So go figure that piece out before you go. That's what I meant, that you may have to sometimes iterate on the ideas. And finally, looking for ethics check. This is a new subject for me. We just started studying it about a year ago. What bothers me is when the innovation is such that there is no precedence to learn from, and people are innovating faster than the regulations can keep up with. And now there is somebody in the business side who's making a business decision based on legal risk, and that CEO, for whom the purpose is purely financial, says, go do this. And the engineer says, no, sir, it'll hurt. Is there a law that protects me? No, then go do it. And there's nothing also to support in terms of data with the community to really stand up and say, no, we should not do this. So there is nobody watching in this intersections domain. And that is a real problem. We really have to dig deeper and ask those questions. Take the example of the electronic cigarette. What happened with Juul? How much problem we created. This is a classic case where there was no precedence to learn from. There's no regulation on the vaping devices, and the decisions were being made based on business reasons, and legal risk was not there at that time, right? It actually started with a good intent. When it started, it was made to take people away from smoking. They said this will help people quit smoking. It will make it safer for those who are smoking. But the moment product hit the market, the business decision drove the salespeople to sell it to the market of the people who were never smoking before. Because now there's no regulation, and you told them it's safe, and they started smoking. And you started smoking indoors. So in the end, the health risk actually went up simply because there was no one watching out at that time. Now we got all those regulations coming up with e-cigarettes. Same thing can happen with lots of things, with artificial intelligence, with all the data that, personal data, whether it goes on Facebook or wherever. If there's no regulation, people are using it for business. So be careful. So that's why ethics check is important. Let's quickly talk about execution, and then we'll get to Q&A here. Execution is very well understood in an everyday stuff. It may need some ideation during execution, technical ideation, business ideation, and we can go back to the same techniques and use it. One most important thing, and that's where a lot of projects fail, is how you review those projects. How you review the quality of activity from risk perspective. So I will just touch upon that aspect and move on. No, there is one more here. Don't reinvent the wheel. Okay. We have all heard this phrase. Don't reinvent the wheel. I say, sure, don't reinvent the wheel, but you can re-innovate the wheel. Just imagine how many different innovations have happened around wheels. There is a wheel with a chain around it that allows you to go on any terrain. And this thing was adapted to a truck. And then Cornell came up with something where they said they can actually transform between these two. Okay. Same thing. You can also repurpose the wheel. It's not necessarily just for motion. You can do other things with the wheel. And what's the wheel in the fourth revolution? What's the wheel for the fourth revolution? This is your wheel for the fourth revolution. I call it smartphone, mobile device. Imagine how many things are happening on mobile device today. You can use it as a stud finder. You can use it to control vacuum cleaners. You can use it for thermographic pictures. There are all sorts of detection devices that are coming up. You know, mobile phone is providing you with memory, computation. It has eyes, it has a camera, it has ears, it can listen, it has a mouth. It's got pretty much everything you can think of above the collar, right? It's almost getting closer and closer to the human brain. So with most of my customers, whenever we are innovating, the first thing I ask, hey guys, put the smartphone into your system and now take off any piece of technology that you need to develop. If it's already in the smartphone, don't do it. Simply integrate the smartphone with your thing. And now, because this allows you connectivity, visualization, communication, storage, analytics, all sorts of things. You know, one area that Johannes and I collaborate is non-destructive testing, and there are some examples here. So in that world, all you have to do is develop a sensor, focus on the sensor, and focus on data processing, and let this mobile device do everything for you. That's the wheel for the fourth revolution. A beautiful phrase. I'm now getting into the gated review piece. If you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it again? Which means you must do it right the very first time. There's a beautiful story I heard. A stop sign at one intersection, actually, stop sign was removed, and there was an accident. And the authority said, "Why is there is no stop sign here?" And the joke is, "Well, sir, we had a stop sign here. People started complaining about seconds lost. They were not stopping. They were anyway jumping through it. And they said, there's never been an accident. We took the stop sign away." And the moment you take the stop sign away, you had an accident. So that's exactly the case with review gates. A review meeting is there to avoid an accident. And the moment you take it away, you will have accidents. A good review involves a few things. The first and foremost is the team that is reviewing the project. It should be diverse. You should have people who are sponsoring it, people who are running that program, somebody who understands all of the engineering, chief engineer or chief discipline or chief, whoever it is, if it's a service guy, chief customer officer, whoever, key players of your R&D team, and also bring in somebody from outside, a retiree or a consultant or a customer, for their wisdom, who had no clue what's going on. But eventually, the important piece is whoever is the chair of this review team must make sure that the team is competent to do the job and is also empowered to stop the train. If you find something is not working, you should be able to say, this shall not move forward until such and such action item is closed. And this is where a lot of review teams fail. They either do not have the competency to spot what could be missing or wrong, or they were competent, they found it, but they were just not empowered to say it. And the boss says, I want this gate passed now because I'm running behind schedule. That's a classic example of both the shuttle failures, in a sense, happened because the teams were not empowered to make the decision. The program guys were making the decisions, and that hurt both times. You should also provide a good balance and healthy interaction during the review team. There's got to be, for example, marketing and R&D. Right? They need to kind of work together. Human resource and subject matter, they need to work together to bring the right talent. But then the project manager and the subject matter expert, they should be at conflict all the time. Because the balance of product KPIs and project metrics, they're that different. They should always be at conflict. Yesterday, somebody asked me, is conflict good or bad? My answer is conflict is actually always good. How you resolve it decides whether it is good or bad. If you don't resolve it correctly, then it was a bad situation. Otherwise, conflict, a healthy conflict, is always a good thing to have. You have to figure out how to resolve it. How to create it and how to resolve it is what makes it very powerful. So that brings us to the end of this innovation value chain, the four pieces that we talked about. Um, in next month, March, April, we will get into innovation framework. The innovation framework is about how you take an organization from being a market follower to somebody who can forecast the market, to someone who can be a visionary trendsetter and change the market. So building a profile of an organization, which involves, portfolio of all these projects that we're talking about, plus people, plus strategy, plus everything, extending market insight from product based to organization based, extending competitive insight from a product project based to an organization based. So we'll discuss that next month. And then the fourth session would be around mindset piece, where how do you rebuild the same child in you that was very creative, that would not hesitate taking a screwdriver and putting it into the electric point because he doesn't know any better, or picking up a little ant from the floor and putting it in the mouth thinking it's something to eat. Over the years of education and organization, we have built a cloud around our head and we are not able to see clearly. And that's a mindset piece that you actually need to clear off a lot of things, reignite creativity, and embrace failure. So that would be our the next two sessions on the topic. We'll put this video on YouTube. All my books are on Amazon. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me. Feel free to check the session 1 that's recording exists over there, and today's one will also be there for you. And that's pretty much it that I had to share for now. Kevin, Prashant, back to you guys.
Ripi, thank you as always. And I've said it before, I will say it yet again. No matter how many times I've been with you, heard you, listened to you talk about this subject matter, each and every time I walk away with some additional piece of information that helps to inform my way of thinking about my own organization. So kudos to you. There's been, some very interesting, very thoughtful, very helpful comments as part of the chat discussion that have been ongoing while you have been speaking. And it's a very engaged group. I would invite those of you at this moment who have questions that you'd like to ask Ripi or comments that you'd like to make to please unmute your microphone and jump into the conversation.
Okay, Ripi, we have a question from between the session when you were talking about ethics and purpose. So Donald Judson asked that what about the organization purpose? That is a way to regulate against ethics. So maybe he's saying that it should be part of organization's purpose to adhere to ethics.
Well, I look at purpose as something that you're going to pursue. It's not an objective, it's where you want to be. And ethics is more around how you go in that pursuit. It's about the practices that you follow. It's about how you deal with people and how you deal with situations. One of the most recent beautiful statements I heard around ethics was, if people are the purpose, then it's good. If people become the means to a purpose, then it's bad ethics. Okay? Never ever make people as means to your purpose. Always put people on the purpose side of it. That's what I would give in a short answer. Don, this is a topic I'm still doing research, and I would be happy to have a longer conversation with you because you have lived certain periods that I would like to learn from.
Okay, we have another question from Dave. He says, why should KPIs and project metrics always be in conflict? Can you describe some example?
Okay, so when we are looking at a product KPI, you see, you're looking at product being affordable. You're looking at product performance, and the project metrics are around getting the project finishing on time, on budget, right? So what happens is If a project manager has its way, he wants the project done in the next 24 hours in $100, right? And if you let the engineering team or the R&D team keep working on it, they just will never stop. They just keep refining, keep refining, keep refining, keep sharpening the pencil. So at some point, you have to be at conflict. Because, it's like cost, speed, schedule, right? It's quality, cost, speed, something like that, right? So the project manager owns the cost and the budget, and the project engineering team or R&D team owns the product KPIs. So they have to be, if they are in conflict, they will actually produce a very good product within the time and budget. If they're not at conflict, you will lose the quality.
Okay, next up, we have Venkatesh is asking, at what stage in the process described is the idea being protected? I think he's talking about.
Fantastic, Venkatesh. That's a very good question. Okay, so the way you protect ideas, and you know it very well because you work for a large organization. You have to first decide whether you're going to file it as a patent, or you're going to keep it as a trade secret, or you're going to just do a copyright. Okay, so if you're going to keep a trade secret, you really have to confine it within the organization. The team that's doing it need to know basis kind of stuff, right? You want to file a patent at the stage when you know that you got a concept and it's a good concept. So you file for a concept patent. And if you're going through a project and you start getting your design, the sooner you do, the better it is. At one time, 5-7 years ago, the rule used to be the first to discover, but now the rules are first to file, right? So the sooner you can refine it to a point where it is worth filing, file it. That's how I would say, if you decide to file it. The other piece that nowadays when I talk to many of my clients is around the patent cycle is 3 years, 4 years. Will you be coming up with a new technology in 3 years? This is going to be even obsolete before you even get a patent. If that's the case, don't file for a patent. Protect it as a trade secret, live with that, keep that as a competitive advantage, because with patent, you're actually telling everybody what you're doing, right? And you are already declaring, and all sorts of things go out in public domain. So the rate of change of technology is such that you should take into account the period when this will become obsolete as compared to your development cycle and the life cycle of the product, and then decide whether you even want to protect it or not. Now, on the protection side, Venkatesh, you know this, that even when you're actually qualifying the concept, you want to also do, just like Marketplace Insight, you also want to do IP search to make sure that you're not violating something that's already existing out there.
Yeah, I think I understand that, Ripi. Thanks.
I would request everybody, if you have more questions, you can unmute yourself and speak up, or you can put the questions in chat box. We'll take it up. Ripi is here to answer.
Yeah. And for this IP landscaping is very useful also for strategic intelligence in order to also to regarding the competitive benchmarking. Actually, if I'm working in a value chain, and so in a value network, I mean, I'm collaborating with other, actually, we could have a different kind of perspective, I mean, regarding the business. So how can you merge a different perspective? Because as we said, with the funny image, when you can see a deck, or actually is a right example. Actually, we could be constrained by different mental models, or actually our business. How can we succeed to benchmark? Because we could have different vision about as well as about ethics and morals. I mean, is something really difficult to manage sometimes in a network. I mean,
yeah, okay. So I think this is one conversation that Kevin and I and Prashant and I have had over the years. True partnerships exist when you are aligned at values and principles and ethics. Otherwise, it doesn't last very long. You don't need a piece of paper to actually sustain a very good relationship. What you need is an alignment of values and practice. If they don't match, don't try to do a joint project, because then you're only looking for a little transactional financial gain that you're getting into a relationship, hey, just for this particular thing. So that's not healthy for the long term. Now, in terms of resolving at the technical or the product level, how multiple organizations can work together, I go back to the concept qualification sheet. That allows you to do 2 or 3 things. You can compare side by side multiple options independently. You can also compare option A, B, and some combination of option A plus B in the same sheet. If multiple organizations are bringing different strengths and resources, the same sheet again allows me to pick the right, okay, the sales competency is coming from here, the development competency is coming here, this is coming here. That particular sheet provides room for every player to find the spot. And if you don't find a spot, then you really don't need that player. And if everybody can agree on that concept qualification sheet, and that's what we normally do, we said, once this is all filled up, all the players got to sign this, and that I agree with each box over here. And during the review process, if you have to change it, you'll come back, the same team will come back and approve the changes. That becomes your controlling document. And that's how we have worked in the past to bring multiple teams together. But if multiple teams have different purpose, but your project objective is same, you can still work together, right? The project objective is still, you can still work together, but if your values and principles and your ethics are different, that relationship is not going to go long.
Thanks.
Anything else? Feel free to get my book on Amazon. It's also available on Kindle. It is actually priced very low on Kindle to make it affordable worldwide. And oh, by the way, I'm pretty shameless about advertising my books because I make no profit from the books. My innovation practice has a purpose. I support companies, and all my clients must have a conversation around sustainability. Whatever projects we do must help sustainability. And so in the same spirit, every profit dollar that's coming from the books is actually going towards ocean cleanup. So that's why I always say, buy the books, help somebody clean the ocean up there.
With a group, typically a group of this size, it's not unusual for folks to hold back on some of the questions because the very nature of the question isn't appropriate for the whole group. And for those of you that do still have questions, I encourage you to reach out to Ripi. You'll find that he is very responsive and highly engaged, and we'll look forward to discussing your question, challenge, or opportunity at length. Ripi, again, thank you so much for a great presentation and seminar. For our audience today, thank you also for your attention and participation. Having so many of you join us on the call today is encouraging. This is a topic that is near and dear to Ripi's heart and mine. It's an area where if we continue to work together, we will achieve great things. We hope to see you at both of the future events. Next up, as Ripi said, is the Innovation Framework. It'll be scheduled for March the 18th. And I look forward to seeing you again and joining you again, taking on the next lesson in Ripi's best practices around innovation. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Bye.